Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and watched the stars through the main window. The ship had been traveling for 8 months now, carrying 50,000 people who wanted to start new lives on a distant planet. These were farmers, teachers, doctors, and engineers. They brought their families, their hopes, and their dreams of building something peaceful far from Earth. Jake was 42 years old and had served in the Earth Defense Force for 15 years before taking this job. He was tall with gray hair at his temples and kind eyes that had seen too much war. He chose this mission because he was tired of fighting. He wanted to help people build instead of destroy. The New Horizon was not a warship. It was 3 miles long and shaped like a giant cylinder. Inside were homes, schools, hospitals, and everything needed to start a colony. The ship moved slowly but steadily toward their new world, Kepler 442c. It was a green planet with good soil and clean water, perfect for growing food and raising children. Dr. Lisa Phillips worked in the ship's main hospital. She was 35, with brown hair and gentle hands that could heal almost anything. Her husband Tom worked as an engineer, fixing the machines that kept everyone alive in space. Their daughter Katie was 8 years old, with bright blue eyes and blonde hair. Katie loved to draw pictures of the new world they would call home. "Will there be butterflies on the new planet, Mom?" Katie asked one morning at breakfast. "I hope so, sweetheart," Lisa said, kissing her daughter's forehead. "We'll have to wait and see." Jake often walked through the ship's corridors and talked with the families. He knew many of them by name. There was old Mr. Pete Garcia, who wanted to grow apples like his grandfather did. Maria Santos hoped to teach children about the stars. The Johnson family planned to raise cattle on the wide grasslands they had seen in pictures. Everyone was excited and nervous. They had left everything behind on Earth for this chance at a new beginning. Some had sold everything they owned to buy passage on the New Horizon. Others had won their spots in a lottery. All of them trusted Jake to get them safely to their new home. But the galaxy was not as empty as they had hoped. The Vorthak Dominion ruled 17 star systems with fear and cruelty. They were large reptiles who walked on 2 legs like humans, but were much bigger and stronger. Their skin was dark green and covered with scales. Their eyes were yellow and cold. They had sharp teeth and claws that could tear through metal. The Vorthak believed that fear was the best way to control other species. When they found a new world with people on it, they would land their ships and give the same message every time. Submit or die. Pay tribute or be destroyed. Give us half your people as slaves or watch your children burn. Most species chose to submit. It was easier than fighting impossible odds. The Vorthak were too strong, too advanced, and too cruel. Better to live as slaves than to die as heroes. High Commander Zrakth was the leader of the Vorthak war fleet in this part of the galaxy. He was 9 feet tall with scars across his face from many battles. He had conquered 6 different species and enslaved millions of beings. He took pride in breaking the spirit of entire worlds without losing a single Vorthak soldier. Zrakth's ship was called the Death's Claw. It was black and shaped like a giant sword. The ship had enough weapons to destroy a moon in armor thick enough to stop any attack. Inside, the walls were decorated with the skulls of species that had tried to resist Vorthak rule. When Zrakth's sensors detected the New Horizon entering his territory, he was not worried. The human ship had no weapons and moved like a fat, slow animal. Humans were a new species to him, but they would learn the same lesson as all the others. Jake was in his cabin reading reports when the alarm started ringing. He ran to the bridge where his officers were staring at their screens with fear in their eyes. "Captain, we have a problem," said Lieutenant Amy Foster, his second in command. She was young but smart, with red hair and freckles. "There's a ship approaching us. It's huge and it's armed." Jake looked at the main screen. The Vorthak vessel was 10 times larger than the New Horizon and bristling with weapons. It moved with the grace of a predator closing in on prey. "Are they responding to our communications?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir, but you're not going to like what they're saying." The main screen flickered and showed the face of High Commander Zrakth. His yellow eyes seemed to look right through Jake's soul. When he spoke, his voice was deep and cold, like winter. "Wind, human vessel, I am High Commander Zrakth of the Vorthak Dominion. You have entered territory that belongs to us. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Jake stepped forward and tried to keep his voice calm. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth colony ship New Horizon. We are peaceful settlers traveling to an unclaimed world. We mean no harm to anyone. Zrakh's mouth opened in what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. There are no unclaimed worlds in Vorthak space, human. Everything here belongs to us. You will submit to our rule or face the consequences. What does submission mean? Jake asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. You will give us half of your people to serve as slaves. The rest will work for the Dominion and pay tribute from everything they produce. Your weapons will be destroyed and your leaders will be executed as examples. This is the way of the Vorthak. Jake felt his heart sink. These people had trusted him to lead them to safety, and instead he had brought them into the hands of monsters. But he had to try to save them. We have no weapons to surrender, Jake said. We are farmers and families. Surely there must be another way. There is always another way, Zrakh replied. Complete destruction. Choose quickly, human. My patience grows thin. All over the New Horizon, people were gathering in groups and whispering fears to each other. Parents held their children close. The elderly prayed to whatever gods they believed in. Jake could see the terror in their faces through the security cameras. He thought about fighting. But what could they do? The New Horizon had no weapons except some small guns for emergencies. The Vorthak ship could destroy them with a single shot. We need time to discuss this with our people, Jake said. You have 1 hour to decide, Zrakh said. Then my warriors will board your ship and the lesson will begin. The screen went dark, leaving Jake alone with his terrible choice. In 60 minutes, everything would change forever. He just didn't know yet how completely the galaxy itself was about to transform. The hour passed like a nightmare. Jake Morrison called together the ship's council in the main meeting room. These were the leaders chosen by the colonists to make important decisions. Dr. Lisa Phillips was there as head of medical. Tom Phillips represented the engineers. Maria Santos spoke for the teachers. Old Pete Garcia had been elected by the farmers. We have to fight, said Tom Phillips, his hands shaking with anger. We can't just give them our people like cattle. With what? Asked Maria Santos. We have security guards with small guns. They have weapons that can destroy planets. Jake sat at the head of the table and felt the weight of 50,000 lives on his shoulders. Every choice seemed wrong. Submit and watch half their people become slaves. Fight and watch everyone die. Maybe we can negotiate, said Dr. Phillips quietly. Offer them something else? Our knowledge, our technology, anything but our people. Aliens, like this don't negotiate, Jake said. I've seen their type before in the war. They only understand strength and fear. Outside the meeting room, families huddled together in their homes. Katie Phillips sat on her bed drawing pictures with her crayons. She drew a house with flowers and trees under a yellow sun. In the picture, she and her parents were smiling and holding hands. Daddy, why does everyone look so scared? Katie asked, her father when he came home from the meeting. Tom Phillips knelt down and hugged his daughter. How could he explain to an 8-year-old that monsters from space wanted to hurt them? There are some bad people who want to take things from us, sweetheart, but Mommy and Daddy won't let anything happen to you. Katie nodded and went back to her drawing. She added a dog to the picture because she had always wanted a pet. The hour ended with a sound like thunder. Metal crashed against metal as Vorthak boarding ships attached themselves to the New Horizon's hull. The aliens cut through the ship's walls with tools that glowed bright red. Vorthak warriors poured into the corridors. They were even more terrifying in person than on the screen. Each one was 9 feet tall with muscles like iron under their green scales. They carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Their yellow eyes showed no mercy or kindness. The security guards tried to stop them, but their small guns did nothing against Vorthak armor. Within minutes, the aliens controlled the entire ship. They moved through every corridor and forced all the humans into the central plaza. The plaza was a large, open space in the middle of the ship where people came to shop and meet friends. It had cafes and stores and a small park with real trees from Earth. Now it became a prison as thousands of terrified colonists were pushed together like sheep. High Commander Zarakth walked into the plaza, followed by 20 of his biggest warriors. His footsteps echoed off the walls as he moved to the center of the crowd. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner. Humans, you have 1 minute to make your choice. Submit to Vorthak rule or face destruction. Half of you will come with us as slaves. The rest will work for the Dominion until you die. Refuse, and everyone dies right now. Jake Morrison pushed through the crowd until he stood face to face with the alien commander. Please, we are peaceful people. We have children here. Families. We can serve the Dominion without breaking up our families. Family is weakness, Zarakth replied. The young must learn early that resistance brings only pain. The old must learn that defiance has consequences. The alien's yellow eyes scanned the crowd of humans. Men and women held their children close. Babies cried in their mother's arms. Elderly people leaned on walking sticks and tried to look brave. Then Zarakth's gaze stopped on Katie Phillips. She was standing between her parents, holding her teddy bear tight against her chest. The bear was brown and worn from years of love. Katie had named him Charlie and took him everywhere. This one, Zarakth said, pointing a clawed finger at the little girl, she will serve as an example. No, Dr. Phillips screamed and tried to push her daughter behind her. She's just a child, please. Exactly, the alien commander said. Your species must learn that age provides no protection from Vorthak justice. Even your young must fear us. Jake Morrison stepped forward with his hands raised. Take me instead. I'm the captain. I'm responsible for bringing us here. Leave the child alone. The lesson must be clear, Zarakth replied. When other species hear what happened here, they will know that the Vorthak show mercy to no one. Fear is our greatest weapon. Other colonists began to shout and plead. She's innocent. Please don't hurt her. Take me instead. But the Vorthak warriors raised their weapons and kept the crowd back. Katie looked up at the huge alien with her bright blue eyes. She was scared but trying to be brave like her parents had taught her. I want to go home, she said in a small voice. I want to see the butterflies on the new planet. Zarakth drew his plasma weapon, a gun that glowed with deadly light. There will be no new planet for you, human child. There will be only an example for others to remember. Tom Phillips broke free from the warriors holding him and ran toward his daughter. Katie, run, he shouted. But more aliens grabbed him and threw him to the ground. Dr. Phillips fell to her knees and begged. Please, I'll do anything. She's all we have. She's just a baby. The plaza fell silent except for Katie's soft crying and her mother's desperate pleas. 50,000 people held their breath and prayed to whatever gods they believed in. Maybe the alien would change his mind. Maybe some small piece of mercy existed in his heart. But High Commander Zarakth had built his reputation on showing no weakness. Fear was everything to the Vorthak. To spare one human child would make him look soft to his own warriors. He raised the plasma weapon and pointed it at Katie Phillips. The little girl clutched her teddy bear and closed her eyes. Remember this moment, humans, Zarakth said. Remember the price of defying the Vorthak Dominion. The weapon fired with a flash of white light. Katie Phillips, 8 years old, fell to the floor of the plaza and did not move again. Her teddy bear landed beside her, still warm from her small hands. The silence that followed was not the silence of submission. It was the silence of something breaking inside the human heart, something that could never be repaired or forgotten. Dr. Lisa Phillips screamed with a sound that was not entirely human. It was the cry of a mother watching her world end. Tom Phillips stopped fighting the aliens and stared at his daughters, still form with eyes that had gone completely cold. Jake Morrison felt something change inside his chest. It was not fear or sadness. It was something darker and more dangerous, something that whispered promises of revenge. High Commander Zarakth looked at the crowd of humans and saw exactly what he expected to see. Broken spirits, shattered hope, complete submission to Vorthak power. He did not see the tiny recording device built into the ship's emergency systems. He did not know that everything he had just done was being broadcast live to Earth through quantum communication signals. He had no idea that in killing one small human child, he had just doomed his entire species to extinction. The signal reached Earth in 6 hours. Quantum communication moved faster than anything in the universe, carrying the last moments of Katie Phillips across thousands of light years. The automatic distress beacon on the New Horizon had been recording everything since the Vorthak attack began. Commander Sarah Lewis was working the night shift at Earth Defense Command when the message arrived. She was drinking coffee and reading reports when her computer screen suddenly filled with the image of a huge alien, pointing a weapon at a small blonde girl holding a teddy bear. Sarah dropped her coffee cup and watched in horror as the scene played out. She had seen many terrible things during the colony wars, but nothing had prepared her for this. When the alien fired his weapon and Katie fell, Sarah felt something break inside her chest. "Get me President Carter on the line right now," she said to her assistant. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "Wake her up if you have to. She needs to see this immediately." Within an hour, the video was playing in the White House Situation Room. President Helen Carter sat at the head of a long table surrounded by generals, admirals, and intelligence officers. She was 55 years old with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much during her time in office. The room was completely quiet as they watched the recording. When it ended, no one spoke for several minutes. Finally, President Carter stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the capital city. "How many people have seen this?" she asked quietly. "It's spreading across the networks now, ma'am," said General Robert Hayes, head of the Joint Chiefs. "We can't stop it. Someone leaked it to the news media. Every person on Earth will know about this by morning." President Carter nodded slowly. She had spent her entire career trying to prevent wars, but some things could not be ignored. Some lines could not be crossed. "Call an emergency session of the United Earth Council," she said. "Get every leader, every general, every admiral. I want them here in 12 hours. "Ma'am, what should I tell them the meeting is about?" asked her chief of staff. The president turned from the window and her eyes were no longer tired. They burned with a cold fire that her staff had never seen before. "Tell them we're going to war." The video of Katie Phillips spread across Earth like wildfire. Within hours, it was playing on every news channel, every computer screen, every phone in the world. People watched a small human child die at the hands of an alien monster, and something fundamental changed in the human heart. In New York, construction workers stopped building and stared at screens in shop windows. In Tokyo, businessmen forgot their meetings and gathered around televisions. In London, mothers held their own children closer and wept for a little girl they had never met. The reaction was unlike anything in human history. There were no protests or debates, no arguments about politics or money. For the first time since leaving the caves, every human being on Earth wanted exactly the same thing: revenge. Admiral Rick Shaw commanded the Earth Defense Fleet from his headquarters on Luna Base. He was 60 years old with white hair and scars from the colony wars. He had fought pirates and rebels, but never aliens who murdered children for sport. His office door burst open as officers flooded in with reports and requests. Everyone was talking at once, but the message was clear. Every ship captain in the fleet wanted to volunteer for the mission to rescue the colonists. Every pilot wanted to fly. Every soldier wanted to fight. "Sir, we have 300 warships ready to launch," said Captain Steve Walsh, his aide. "The Martian Defense Force is offering their entire fleet. Even the mining companies want to arm their cargo ships and join us." Admiral Shaw looked at the tactical displays showing Earth's military strength. The numbers were impressive, but he knew they would need more than ships to win this fight. They would need something the aliens had never faced before. "Send a message to every human colony, every space station, every mining outpost," he ordered. "Tell them what happened to Katie Phillips. Ask for volunteers." The response was immediate and overwhelming. From the ice mines of Europa to the farming domes of Mars, humans dropped everything and headed home. Miners became gunners. Farmers became Marines. Teachers became communications officers. Dr. Jennifer Mills worked at the weapons research facility on Titan. She was a small woman with dark hair and brilliant mind that had designed Earth's best defensive systems. When she saw the video of Katie's murder, she locked herself in her laboratory and did not come out for 3 days. When she finally emerged, she was carrying plans for weapons that had never been built before. Weapons designed not to defend, but to destroy completely and utterly. "These are planet killers," she told Admiral Shaw when she presented her designs. "I never wanted to build them before because they seemed too terrible to use. But after seeing what those monsters did to that little girl, I don't think anything is too terrible anymore." Meanwhile, on the New Horizon, the surviving colonists endured their first weeks under Vorthak rule. The aliens had divided them into work groups and assigned them to different parts of the ship. Men worked in the engine rooms. Women cooked and cleaned. Children as young as 10 were forced to repair equipment with their small hands. Jake Morrison found himself assigned to the ship's maintenance crew, along with Tom Phillips and several other former military personnel. The Vorthak guards watched them carefully, but they underestimated human determination. "They think we're broken," Jake whispered to Tom as they worked in a storage compartment. "They think killing Katie made us afraid." Tom Phillips had not spoken much since his daughter died. His eyes had gone cold and empty, like windows into a house where no one lived anymore. But when Jake mentioned Katie's name, something flickered in those dead eyes. "They don't understand humans very well," Tom said quietly. "We don't break the way other species do. We just get angry and patient at the same time." Dr. Lisa Phillips worked in the ship's medical bay, treating injuries caused by Vorthak cruelty. She moved like a ghost, doing her job with mechanical precision, but never smiling or speaking unless necessary. The aliens thought grief had destroyed her spirit. They were wrong. Lisa Phillips was not broken. She was planning. At night, when the Vorthak guards thought the humans were sleeping, small groups met in hidden places throughout the ship. They shared information, made plans, and prepared for the day when Earth's response would arrive. Because they knew it would arrive. Humans did not abandon their own. Humans did not forget their dead children, and humans had a very long memory when it came to revenge. "How long do you think it will take?" asked Maria Santos during one of these secret meetings. Jake Morrison looked at the faces around him. These people had lost everything, but they had not lost hope. They believed that somewhere in space other humans were coming to save them. "Earth got the signal 6 months ago," he said. "It will take them time to build a fleet and travel here. Maybe another 6 months, maybe longer. But they will come." "What, if they don't?" asked someone in the darkness. "Then we'll handle this ourselves," said Tom Phillips. His voice was soft but carried a promise of violence that made everyone in the room believe him. Outside the New Horizon, Vorthak patrol ships moved through space like metal sharks. High Commander Zrakth felt satisfied with his conquest. The Rive. Humans had submitted completely after his demonstration. Soon, other species would hear about the fate of the human colony and surrender without fighting. He had no idea that his greatest mistake was not killing Katie Phillips. His greatest mistake was letting the other humans live long enough to remember her. 6 months after Katie Phillips died, the first human warships arrived at the edge of the Kepler system. Admiral Rick Shaw stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Earth's Fury, and looked at the tactical display showing 200 human vessels, ready for battle. The fleet was unlike anything Earth had ever built before. Every ship carried weapons designed by Dr. Jennifer Mills specifically for destroying Vorthak technology. The hulls were painted black with white letters spelling out names like Katie's Revenge, Never Again, and Remember Earth's Children. "Admiral, we're detecting 15 Vorthak warships near the planet," reported Captain Steve Walsh. "They're moving to intercept us." Shaw nodded grimly. He had studied every piece of intelligence about Vorthak military tactics. They were strong and ruthless, but they had one weakness. They had never fought an enemy that refused to surrender. "Send the message to all ships," Shaw ordered. "Today we show these monsters what happens when they hurt human children." "High Commander." Zrakth received the warning from his patrol ships with amusement rather than concern. 15 Vorthak vessels against 200 human ships might seem like bad odds, But numbers meant nothing when one side had superior technology and the other was driven by mere emotion. "The humans have come to die bravely," he told his bridge crew. "Very well. We shall give them the honor of a quick death." But when the two fleets met in the space between planets, something happened that Zrakth had never experienced before. The human ships did not try to run or negotiate. They did not form defensive positions or try to minimize their losses. Instead, they attacked like wild animals. Captain Amy Foster commanded the destroyer Lightning Strike. She was 28 years old with red hair and freckles, and she had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in the fleet. Her ship carried a new type of weapon that could only be fired once before destroying the ship that launched it. "Target the Vorthak command vessel," she told her weapons officer. "Full power to the Nova torpedo." "Captain, firing that weapon will overload our reactor," her chief engineer warned. "The ship won't survive." Amy looked at the picture of Katie Phillips that every human ship carried into battle. The little girl's innocent face reminded her why they were here. "Then we better make it count," she said. "Fire." The lightning strike exploded in a ball of white fire that could be seen from 3 planets away. But the Nova torpedo reached its target first, punching through the Vorthak ship's armor and detonating inside its reactor core. The alien command vessel split in half and died in space. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human. Pilots chose certain death to take Vorthak ships with them. Lieutenant Ben Tucker crashed his fighter directly into a Vorthak cruiser's bridge. Commander Lisa Park detonated her ship's entire ammunition supply next to an alien dreadnought. "They're all insane," whispered a Vorthak officer as he watched human ships sacrifice themselves without hesitation. "No," said his captain, understanding beginning to dawn on him. "They're not insane. They're angry." The battle lasted 4 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Vorthak fleet. But the human victory came at a terrible cost. Half of Admiral Shaw's ships were gone, and thousands of Earth's best pilots would never come home. As the surviving human vessels moved toward the planet where the New Horizon waited, Shaw stood among the wreckage of his fleet and felt both triumph and sorrow. They had won, but the price was higher than anyone had expected. On the surface of Kepler 442c, Jake Morrison felt the ship shake as explosions lit up the sky above them. The Vorthak guards were running around in panic, shouting orders in their harsh language and preparing their weapons. "What's happening?" asked Dr. Lisa Phillips as she joined Jake in the observation deck. "Earth came for us," Jake said simply, watching the lights of battle flash among the stars. "Just like I knew they would." The Vorthak garrison commander was a brutal alien named Grakth, nephew of High Commander Zrakth. When he realized his fleet was losing the battle in space, he made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his very short life. "If we cannot win, then no one wins," he told his soldiers. "Kill all the human prisoners. Leave no witnesses to our defeat." But Grakth had made the same mistake as his uncle. He underestimated what humans could do when they had nothing left to lose. Tom Phillips had been waiting 6 months for this moment. While the Vorthak thought he was broken by grief, he had been carefully studying their weapons, their habits, and their weaknesses. When the first alien soldier entered the prison area with death in his eyes, Tom was ready. The Vorthak warrior was 9 feet tall and armed with a plasma rifle. Tom Phillips was a 6-foot human engineer with nothing but rage and a piece of metal pipe he had stolen from the ship's repair shop. The fight lasted 30 seconds. The Vorthak died. All across the New Horizon, similar battles broke out as the human colonists rose up against their captors. Maria Santos led a group of teachers and farmers in capturing the ship's armory. Old Pete Garcia, despite being 70 years old, personally strangled 2 Vorthak guards with his bare hands. Dr. Lisa Phillips moved through the ship like an angel of death, using her medical knowledge to find the exact spots where Vorthak anatomy was most vulnerable. She killed 7 aliens before the uprising was over, and each death was dedicated to the memory of her murdered daughter. The aliens had expected broken slaves. Instead, they found themselves fighting desperate parents who remembered a little girl with blonde hair and a teddy bear. Jake Morrison led the final assault on the ship's bridge. The Vorthak garrison commander waited for him there, confident that his superior size and strength would be enough to kill the human leader. "Your daughter screamed when she died," Grzakth taunted, trying to break Jake's spirit one last time. Jake looked at the alien monster and smiled coldly. "She wasn't my daughter, but she was human. And that's enough." The fight was brutal and bloody, but it ended with Grzakth dead on the floor of his own bridge. Jake Morrison stood over the alien's body, breathing hard and covered in green blood. Outside, Admiral Shaw's surviving ships landed on the planet's surface. Human Marines poured out of the landing craft, expecting to find a prison camp full of broken colonists. Instead, they found 50,000 humans who had freed themselves and were busy burying dead aliens in mass graves. "Admiral Shaw, this is Captain Morrison," Jake said over the radio. "The new horizon is secure. All hostile forces have been eliminated." Shaw smiled for the first time in months. "Good work, Captain. But this is just the beginning. We have a galaxy to liberate." As night fell on Kepler 442s, the surviving humans gathered in the ship's central plaza. Someone had placed a small memorial where Katie Phillips had died. It was made of flowers and drawings and teddy bears brought by children who wanted to honor the little girl they had never met. Dr. Lisa Phillips knelt by the memorial and placed her daughter's favorite crayon there. It was blue, the color of Katie's eyes and the color of the sky on the world they would never see together. "We did it, sweetheart," she whispered. "The bad monsters are gone. But Mommy's not finished yet. There are other children out there who need protecting." Above them, the stars shone down on a species that had just learned something important about itself. Humans were capable of great kindness and infinite patience. But when someone hurt their children, they became something else entirely. They became unstoppable. News of the human victory at Kepler spread across the galaxy faster than starlight. For the first time in 300 years, a species had defeated the Vorthak in open battle. Alien races that had lived under reptilian rule for generations began to whisper about hope in dark corners and hidden places. On the world of Theta Prime, the blue-skinned Zelani people heard the story and remembered their own children who had died under Vorthak guns. On the mining planet Korax, the insect-like hive clan stopped their work and looked up at the stars with new possibilities in their compound eyes. But nowhere was the news more welcome than on Earth itself. President Helen Carter stood before the United Earth Assembly and announced humanity's new mission to the galaxy. Behind her, a giant screen showed the picture of Katie Phillips holding her teddy bear. 6 months ago, monsters killed a human child to teach us fear, she said to the packed auditorium. Today, we begin teaching them what human anger can accomplish. We will not stop until every Vorthak world burns and every enslaved species is free. The assembly erupted in cheers that could be heard 3 blocks away. Every person on Earth knew Katie's name now. Every human child learned about the little girl who had changed the galaxy by dying bravely. Admiral Rick Shaw returned to Earth with plans for the largest military campaign in human history. The first wave had been 200 ships. The second wave would be 2,000. Dr. Jennifer Mills worked day and night in her laboratory, designing weapons that could crack planets and melt moons. She had crossed lines that good people were never supposed to cross. But every time doubt crept into her mind, she looked at Katie's picture and kept working. "How many ships do you need to destroy their homeworld?" President Carter asked during a planning meeting. "Just one," Dr. Mills replied quietly. "But I pray to God we never have to use it." The Vorthak High Council met in emergency session on their capital world. For the first time in their species' history, they were afraid. Reports came in daily of human fleets attacking their outposts and freeing alien slaves. Supreme Leader Zrakth, promoted after his brother's death at Kepler, paced before the council chambers like a caged predator. The humans were not fighting, like any species he had encountered before. They did not seek territory or resources. They seemed to want only one thing: revenge. "They are just one small species," he told the council. "We have conquered galaxies. We have enslaved billions. We will crush these humans and feed their bones to our young." But even as he spoke, Zrakth felt doubt creeping into his mind. The humans had displayed a capacity for sacrifice that defied all logic. They threw away their lives without hesitation. if it meant killing more Vorthak. Commander Steve Walsh led the second human fleet toward the Vorthak border worlds. His ships were filled with volunteers from every human colony and space station. Many were not soldiers but farmers, miners, and teachers who had left their families to fight for a dead child they had never met. The first border world they reached was called Vraktor, home to 3 billion Vorthak civilians and a massive military base. Standard military doctrine said you surrounded such worlds and demanded surrender. Steve Walsh was no longer interested in standard doctrine. All ships, prepare for planetary bombardment, he ordered. We're going to show them what happens when you hurt human children. The battle for Vraktor lasted 6 hours and ended with the planet's surface turned to glass. 3 billion Vorthak died in a single day, more than had been killed in all their previous wars combined. When other Vorthak worlds heard what happened at Vraktor, panic began to spread through their empire. Some planets tried to surrender, but the humans were no longer accepting surrenders. They had moved beyond forgiveness into something darker and more final. Jake Morrison now commanded his own ship, the Katie's Promise, and led strike teams that freed alien prisoners from Vorthak slave camps. He worked with Dr. Lisa Phillips, who had become the head of human intelligence operations in Vorthak space. Lisa had changed since her daughter's death. She moved with cold precision and spoke in a voice that never showed emotion. She interrogated, captured Vorthak officers, and extracted information about slave camps and weapons factories. Where are the Zelani children being held? She asked a Vorthak captain they had captured on the world of Grexnar. I will tell you nothing, human female, the alien snarled. The Vorthak do not break under questioning. Lisa looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death. She placed Katie's picture on the table between them. This was my daughter, she said quietly. Your people killed her to teach us fear. Now I'm going to teach you what human patience looks like. 3 hours later, the Vorthak captain was begging to tell her everything he knew. The war raged for 2 years across 17 star systems. Everywhere the humans went, they found aliens ready to join their cause. The Zelani provided ships and pilots. The Hive clans offered their vast industrial capacity. The rock-eating granite folk shared their mining expertise, but it was always human ships that led the attacks. Always human voices on the communications channels promising that no Vorthak would be spared. They had become the galaxy's avenging angels, terrible and unstoppable. The final battle took place above Vorthak Prime, the reptilian homeworld where their species had first crawled from the swamps millions of years ago. 1,000 human ships faced the last Vorthak fleet in the space above their ancient capital. Supreme Leader Zrakth commanded the defense from his flagship, the Death of Worlds. He was the last of his line, the final heir to an empire that had ruled the galaxy through fear and cruelty. All ships, attack formation, he ordered his captains. We die here, but we die as Vorthak. The battle was fierce, but brief. Human ships fell like burning stars, but for everyone that died, 3 Vorthak vessels exploded in return. The humans had learned to fight with a fury that their enemies could not match. Jake Morrison led the boarding party that captured Zrakth's ship. The Vorthak leader waited for him in his command chamber, surrounded by the skulls of conquered species and the flags of dead civilizations. So, human, Zrakth said, as Jake entered with his weapon drawn. You have won your war. Are you satisfied? Jake looked around at the trophies of genocide and felt no satisfaction at all. Only emptiness where his mercy used to live. This was never about satisfaction, he said. This was about making sure no other child dies the way Katie Phillips died. 1. Human child? Zrakth laughed bitterly. You destroyed an entire civilization for one small human child. Jake raised his weapon and pointed it at the alien's heart. Yes. And now you understand what makes humans different from every other species you conquered. The plasma bolt that killed Zrakth also ended the Vorthak Empire forever. 3 months later, a monument was built on the ruins of the Vorthak capital. It showed a small human girl holding a teddy bear, with words carved in every known language. Katie Phillips, age 8. She died alone, but she did not die unavenged. Dr. Lisa Phillips stood before the monument on the day it was dedicated. She was no longer the gentle doctor who had healed the sick. War had made her into something harder and colder, but when she looked at her daughter's face carved in stone, she allowed herself to cry for the first time in 2 years. "It's over, sweetheart," she whispered. "The monsters are all gone now. Other children can sleep safely because of you." Around the galaxy, former Vorthak slave worlds celebrated their freedom. Alien children played in parks where once they had cowered in fear. Parents told their young ones stories about the brave humans who had traveled across space to save them. But on every human world, in every human home, Katie's picture hung in a place of honor. Human children learned her name before they learned to read. Her story became part of human culture, a reminder of who they were and what they would do to protect their own. The galaxy had learned something important about humanity. They were capable of great kindness and infinite patience. They could build beautiful things and dream of peaceful futures. But if you hurt their children, they would burn down the stars themselves to make you pay, and they would never, ever forget.